Hi, my name is Denise Barrow. I'm the founder of the Grant Sherpa. We help tech and innovation companies and organizations across Canada with grant funding and the how-to process of moving them forward. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the Grant Sherpas located in the heart of Southern Alberta. Both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, Kainai First Nations, Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. Our mission at the Grant Sherpa is to make it easy for Canadian organizations and companies to find, apply, and close grant funding. And these are common shared values, which we often share with the clients that we serve. The Grant Sherpa started out just as a service to help people with grants. And as a result of the work that we've done over the years, we've built partnerships with service providers who can provide training and support in different areas to help people move forward. And so we also, when we work with the community, we also connect people to different resource partners as they need them. We work with companies, mostly tech and innovation in Canada, and organizations who serve in those areas, work with their stakeholders. We often work with different people that are involved in what they're doing. And then we have relationships with the community ecosystem. So we often are connecting people to other people to help them win when there's an opportunity that we see that we can add value to. We call grants a dance because there's different steps and stages depending on the grant. And that's what we help people guide through because grants are not easy. There's kind of 4 steps that I'm going to walk through to kind of share how we approach funding and how I want to encourage people to approach funding. First of all, a strategy is understanding, when we take a look at, we typically don't just look at one-off grant. We're taking a look at what does an organization need from a funding perspective, and then figure out what's the best strategy in terms of funding, because there could be multiple different grants, and you'd want to figure out which grant would be involved in what aspect of a project, for example, to be able to help you grow. We also look at the scope of what are the grants that have been done in the past, and what's the best way to approach the funding overall as you grow and scale. We look at what your funding needs are because different types of funding may draw on different grants that you may be able to access. And then what we think is really, really important is the process, because each grant, as I mentioned, is a different dance. And so there's different steps in the process that we guide people through. Key to doing great work in grants is having the right supporting docs and having the information show up to support the information that the grant funders are looking for. Just overall, grants are in different areas. Research and development is a big area that's related to anything that you're innovating and can secure intellectual property for. There is money both in R&D and then to secure intellectual property. Most of this money is typically in the for-profit companies versus nonprofit, but there's training dollars to upskill people in the workplace. So it's grants are in different province. They have different agreements in terms of what they cover, but it's roughly up to $10,000 per employee, and it's reimbursed roughly at 67%. That percentage may vary depending on the province. There's new money coming out for AI. AI is going to be that advancement in terms of technology. And so money's going to be coming out and is out right now in terms of AI for ecosystems and also for companies to advance AI within their organization. Most of it is in the form of a zero interest loan right now. There is some matching grant funding as well. Hiring grants, there's hiring grants for students. There's a lot of programs people are aware of is the annual student hiring program, which closed in December, but there's other hiring programs as well to stimulate the hiring of people over 18, typically registered in college and universities, and it's matched funding to bring students on. Sometimes there's some eco jobs funding. The last 3 years there has been. And so it's roughly $20,000 to $25,000, and there's a percentage that you would contribute to those hiring opportunities. Expansion, it's really designed to help companies scale and that are growing 20% year over year. It's there's one both in AI and one in a few different sectors in Canada. Again, it's run by different regions like Prairies Can or Pacific Can or other economic development regions in Canada. Sometimes there's regional focuses. So sometimes there, could be energy or sustainability or agriculture. There could be different areas where there might be some regional grants. Sectors is another main place where we look for funding. We often ask the company, tell us a little bit about where your technology or where the innovation or where the project is related to. And it could be related to multiple. It could be related to manufacturing. It could be related to energy. It could be related to sustainability. It could be related to just there's a number of different areas where we look at where does that fit within the grant funding landscape. There's money to grow business and develop innovation outside of Canada. So if those opportunities exist, it opens usually once or twice a year, depending on the fund and how much money they have in the fund. It goes really, really fast these days. So the current one is open until May. And then there's special considerations in terms of how they award funding. Indigenous organizations have an advantage in the sense that often when you're applying as an Indigenous organization or Indigenous company, you often have to contribute less of a percentage to projects to get funding. And funding may also be up to 100% depending on the grant. I've just listed, based on what Jim has shared with me, I've shared some agricultural resources because it seems like some of the funding around food security programs might be of value. So there's some links here, and I'll give this to Jim so he can pass it along to you if it's of value. Again, each program might have different things that apply to what you're doing. It depends on what's in the project, the stage of the development, the province that you're located in, the territory, etc., so that we can properly figure out what funding applies to your project. Typically, when we look at project planning, so when we're looking at presenting projects for grant funding, we're looking at tell us what the problem is. The government often in the grant funding program wants to look at the problem, the budget you have, how you plan to take it from start to finish, who are the contractors and the quotes related to it, who on your team will be leading the project and who's involved, metrics, how you're going to measure outcomes, and then letters of support from your community partners. Grants have a process, and so we try to help people guide them through that process because it's sometimes can be very complicated. These are the kind of the steps that we walk people through when we're taking a look at helping them with grants. Just so we want to know about the organization, what their goals are, what their direction, what their vision is, and how do we align that project to the funding. We look at building grant lists in terms of what grants could fit. We look at setting priorities because sometimes in organizations and in companies, they have limited funding to match the projects. So we just start with what's most important to them to go after, select a grant, meet with the funder typically if we can, just to understand what they're looking for to see in the project that we may not know just from reading the grant website. We look at the matching funding and where that matching funding would come from because it's usually an element that can stall a project. We look for the supporting docs, and if organizations or companies don't have those resources, there's people that can help build those documents if they want to on an outsourced fee-for-service basis. We review and edit what resources are included in the application so we can make sure that they show up the way the grant funder wants to see them. We prepare drafts and then we submit. If approved, we also educate people on the reporting process because it's another step in terms of claiming funding. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We do a complimentary 30-minute chat just to see if there's things that we could help you or answer your questions about grants. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to be able to see if we can help you in some way. Thanks so much for your time and look forward to connecting with you in the future. Have yourself a great day.